Imagine having the life of your dreams. Not temporary cash and glory, but happiness and inner peace. Explore new ways to be a creator and take your own journey into greatness. Is it possible? What does it take to make that happen? It takes the person known for extreme results. He's called the cage breaker and the ultimate catalyst. Coming back from the brink of death and now crushing it for himself and his clients. This is Your Ultimate Life Podcast with Kellan Flukiger.
Hello and welcome to today's episode of Your Ultimate Life, the podcast committed to helping you create a life of purpose, prosperity, and joy, created by something only you possess, your divine gifts and talents, because no one is like you. Now, there's this thing that people say everybody's unique and completely different and so forth, and sometimes that's used as a crutch, and other times it's talking about an eternal truth. So let's talk for a minute about what that really means. As a crutch, we sometimes say it like, okay, everybody's unique, and so everybody's special, and all that sort of thing, and we create a specialness that's not really helpful, because often it then breeds entitlement. I'm special. No one understands me. Everything's special for me, and that sort of thing, especially if we create the idea that everything you do is okay. That doesn't build, it builds neither character, nor does it build success. It builds entitlement. So I'm not even talking about that. I am talking about your uniqueness in a really powerful and truthful way, and that's this. Every person has some unique DNA. Now, even identical twins have tiny differences. But even with their precise duplication of DNA, here's what isn't the same. The spirit that inhabits the body is not the same. The energetic thing, whatever you want to call it, I call it a spirit, but that thing came from somewhere, and it did not have an identical set of experiences, even close. It also comes with different gifts and talents. You, me. Even if identical twins come in the same physical container, they're completely different in how they came. And on top of that, what happened, before they came, on top of that, our experiences in life are the same, even if we're raised in the same household. My house is an example. My younger brothers and sisters, there were three older ones, my older sister, me, and my brother, and we were raised in a time when my mom used a lot of physical discipline, and it decreased over time. And the younger three that came many years later don't even recognize the things that I wrote in the book Tightrope. So that was completely different in the very same household because other stuff changed. On top of that, our experiences with friends and learning and skills we learn and music we like and everything else is completely different. How we then interpret the experiences we have is completely different. So that by the time you're very old at all, each person, even if they're an identical twin, are completely, totally, absolutely, wildly, profoundly different people. So what? Well, that plays right into this, because today we're building the fifth stone in the pillar of integrity in your palace of power. And the name of this episode is Accessing Power. So what does this all have to do with accessing power and your uniqueness? Well, here's the good news. The good news is because you're unique, you bring something interesting and powerful to the party. If you want to, nobody's going to make you. Your unique set of experiences gives you a particular viewpoint, a particular ability to communicate, a particular voice that is unique to you and everything else. I often help people write books, and one of the questions they have, is, well, gee, I've looked and somebody else already wrote this book about this topic, or somebody else, many other else's are talking about this, so what if I've got nothing to say? Whether or not you have something to say depends entirely on your desire to speak. You're not going to be the same as someone else and say the same things unless you go say the same things. What I recommend people do in that circumstance is go to the library and go to the bookstore and look in the section where you expect the book you would write to be. Look at the books that are there. Read them. What is missing? What have those authors failed to understand, failed to explain, or failed to recognize in today's changing world? So, number one, you have a unique viewpoint, and two, the world has changed radically, quickly, and more so now than ever before in history. Now, we're winding down the second year of this pandemic, which some people still call a hoax and, a government control conspiracy and whatever. Just those differing opinions all create the rich texture and tapestry of the uniqueness of the world. Why does that matter in getting power and building integrity? Really simply this. Your power, the power that you have to create your ultimate life, comes from being authentic and truthful and real about who you are. It does not and never will come from pretending you're someone else. It does not come from inauthenticity. It does not come from lack of integrity. It comes only from choosing what you stand for in life, what principles define you, like we talked about a couple of episodes ago, and then being true and consistent to those principles. That defines you. Then speaking powerfully about the things that matter to you will give you great power to make a difference. I'm not suggesting you run around and invent a bunch of things you care about. In fact, don't do that. You know the things that are important to you, where you truly believe in your heart that you could make a difference. Helping people, helping yourself, raising your voice, all of those things can matter, and they matter far more when you are truly committed to the thing you are talking about, working on, solving, etc. Not etc. Sorry, said that wrong. So accessing power is from your integrity, from your consistency. Now, sometimes there's a myth I want to address, and that is information is power. You know what? Information can be powerful. The only way it becomes powerful in that sense is when you withhold it. So you have hoarders of information. They don't want to share it, and they don't want to tell someone, share it, because then they believe that they lose power, that they somehow become less important and less valuable, and that withholdingness is what gives them power. That's a sad and sorry state of affairs. The most you can do is to share what you have and what you know with all the love and consistency and power that you have. I'm going to use a simple example that will be obvious to you, and maybe it's something you've experienced, and that is leadership. I don't know if you've either been or worked for a boss where they did withhold information, and you knew it, and it could be felt, and everybody didn't have the pieces they needed to really move, and it was a frustrating situation. So the leader may be in charge and have the authority to tell people what to do, but what I know for sure is they didn't have the loyalty of their people, because the people never knew when at any moment some new revelation was going to come from the point of view of power that the leader had that was going to change everything, make whatever they were thinking or doing need to be adjusted, perhaps significantly. And then, in other words, they were blindsided by this information that was already available but was withheld because of the power game. That doesn't create loyalty. If you want to create loyalty, which is another form of power, then sharing the information that you have, including the doubts and concerns and caveats as required, is what creates loyalty, and it also creates power. Real power to get things done. Now, again, remember, I'm not talking in the Palace of Power about power over people to make them do what you want. I'm talking about, number one, personal power to make of yourself what you truly want to make. Number two, to be the difference and cause the difference in the world that you want to cause. And number three, to be a blessing and a beacon to those for whom you are an example and that you might lead either formally or informally. That's real and lasting power. So power in yourself to be and do what you want to be and do, what you claim you are, what you want to be. That is the real power. The only battle that matters is the battle inside your heart. Second, you'll have power to inspire, to lift, to bless, and to lead. You'll have power to make a difference. You'll have power to bless people's lives and encourage them in moments of fear and weakness and all the rest. That's real power. Power over somebody to make somebody do this, that, and the other, that's a fraction, that's a mere ghost, an echo of real power. So I want you to think about that. Now, today's pillar of integrity is that integrity is powerful. That's the name of this stone. And we've talked about all the other stones in the pillar of integrity, which is it's simple, it's complicated, or handles the complex things. It defines you, it's cumulative, and today it's powerful. And that is absolutely true. And here's what I mean. When you behave with consistent integrity, when you are transparent and consistent, you declare who you are, people can see by your words and your actions and your attitudes in every situation that you are consistent and you're not situational with your ethics or your morals or your choices or your values. That creates real power, and that integrity principle lets you access power, the kind that really matters in shaping the world around you and creating internal peace and prosperity. Remember, this podcast is about creating your ultimate life of what? Purpose, prosperity, and joy. That power that comes from this pillar of integrity is an integral, in fact, indispensable part about that. So the last piece I want to talk about is the power that you get inside when you build and live in your pillar of integrity, supporting your palace of power. And here are the reasons. You have a self-trust, you have a certainty, and you have peace. So let's take that apart. Self-trust, here's what I mean by that. I've had people say to me, I don't trust myself. I don't trust myself. Well, when you say that doesn't mean someone's going to force you to do it. What that means is I believe that in the moment of decision, some other voice or yearning or longing or temptation will weaken me, and I will behave inconsistent with what we are talking about right now would be the value or the decision. I don't trust myself. Well, if you are consistent, or if I am consistent, and we live according to integrity, which is transparency and consistency, people know what we stand for, and we always act like that, then the issue of self-trust will evaporate because you are consistent. Now, the way to build that isn't simply to, hope that you can trust yourself. It is to make thousands upon thousands of tiny decisions that line up with your declared values. Now, think about that. Thousands and thousands of tiny decisions, and we make that many every day, tiny ones. If you are consistent with what your values are, then you will trust yourself. You do trust yourself because you always do that. If you go around with the idea that, this once won't matter, or this doesn't matter, or who cares, or nobody knows, then you are building the foundation where the self-trust is an issue. If, on the other hand, you say, I am this, I'm honesty, I always tell the truth, then I'm going to tell the truth. And you do that about every tiny little thing, then the issue of self-trust evaporates. The second piece I wanted to visit about that it gives you is certainty. Certainty. What I mean by that is people love to follow someone who has an air of clarity and certainty about them. I know that in my own leadership experience, the teams that I led loved that. They knew that I would be clear and certain about the direction and the answers. They also knew that if it turned out to be a mistake or turned out to not work like we wanted, I would immediately own that, and we would make a change and go forward, and I would never do it blaming them. So I protected them, I honored their loyalty, and I acted with certainty so that they never left a conversation not knowing what to do. Or if I didn't know, I'd say, well, I'll find out and you'll know by X. So there was clarity about what to do and never this uncertain black cloud. So when you act with the power of integrity and consistency gives you that certainty. You can trust yourself. That doesn't mean you don't make mistakes, but you can trust your process and people will trust you. The third and last thing is an inner peace. When you act with integrity, you have peace of conscience, peace of heart. You don't know how anyone else is going to react or what they're going to say, and you don't care. You are believing and acting according to what you know is right. You correct mistakes as they go, and you move forward again with that same clarity and integrity, certainty, and consistency. Those principles, that interpretation, understanding, and implementation of integrity does give you access to power. So we're building the pillar of integrity to support the palace of power. And today we've talked about how not all, but many of the different ways that living in integrity and consistency accesses power for you, not power over, but power to create. Power to make things happen that without integrity would not be able to happen on your road to your ultimate life. Open your heart and this time around.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. We hope that you take it deeply into your heart and decide for yourself how you can create anything you desire. If you like what you heard, please subscribe to this podcast and share it with your friends. As always, we'd love to hear your feedback and topic suggestions. Until tomorrow, this is Your Ultimate Life with host Kellan.
Stand with your heart in the sky and your feet